Gentlemen, it's 6:01 p.m. We're going to call this meeting to order. This is to advise the general public. I'm sorry, LEHSD Live, you ready to rock and roll? Could somebody from IT just confirm we're ready to go live?
Said yes.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. All right. This is to advise the general public that in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, that the Little Egg Harbor Board of Education caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 307 Frog Pond Road, Little Egg Harbor, New Jersey, and faxed on January 8th, 2020 to the Asbury Park Press, Atlantic City Press, and the office of the Municipal Clerk of Little Egg Harbor, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Roll call for members present. Mr. Balone.
Here.
Mr. Keeb.
Here.
Ms. Palin.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Roth.
Here.
Dr. Snyder.
Here.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Here.
And Ms. Januzzi.
Here.
All members are present. I did not record, I have a time, but not a first and a second out of executive session. I have a first from Dr. Snyder. I'm looking for a second to the motion to enter executive session at 5:50 p.m. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Palin. We're going to move on now to the Pledge of Allegiance, and everybody rise. I'll get my screen going with the picture of the U.S. flag. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Okay. First up is the recommended motion to approve the July 20th, 2020 agenda. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Are there any questions on tonight's agenda? All in favor of approving the July 2020 agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed to approving the agenda, say nay. Motion carries. Next item up is the approval of minutes. Recommend motion to approve the following minutes from June 15th, both regular and executive session. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Roll call vote, Mr. Balone,
Yes.
Mr. Keeb,
Yes.
Ms. Palin,
Yes.
Ms. Roth,
Yes.
Dr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
and Ms. Januzzi.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next up on the agenda is board presentation from Ms. Jackie Truzzolino, who will give us the HIB grade report for 2018 and 2019. Ms. Truzzolino, the floor is yours.
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so that you can all see it. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Each year, the school district is required to do a self-assessment on our HIB programs and different various elements of that. And this is serving that purpose. We do the actual self-assessment in the fall. For those board members that have been around, you saw me present this back in the fall, the draft before we submitted it. And now the state has approved our self-assessment evaluation and scores. And really it's an opportunity for us to reflect on the school year to see how we are fulfilling and following the anti-bullying Bill of Rights law. So a lot of value comes in doing that. This is the way that the report comes, and this is how we have to present it on our district website and our school websites. But I'm going to break that down for you so that you can see it a little bit more clearly. In the areas of HIB programs, approaches, and other initiatives, out of a maximum of 15 points, all three schools gave themselves a score of 15. And these scores are all done by the anti-bullying specialist for each school, as well as their climate committees. In regards to training on our Board of Ed approved HIB policy, again, all three schools gave a 9 out of 9. In regards to staff instruction and training programs, all three schools gave 15 out of 15. Curriculum and instruction on HIB and related information and skills, 6 out of 6. HIB personnel that we're hiring all the required staff that we need and training them, a 9 out of 9. And our actual reporting procedure that we have, we scored a 6 out of 6. Our investigative procedure, sorry about the dog, following all of our timelines and protocols, we have a 12 out of 12 for all three schools. And in regards to HIB reporting, out of a maximum of 6 points, 2 schools gave themselves a 6. The Frog Pond, which is usually harder on themselves than the other schools, gave themselves a 5 out of 6. And overall, out of a maximum of 78 points, the Mitchell School and the ECC had a 78 out of 78, and the Frog Pond had 77 out of 78. And our district average is a 78, which is slightly higher than last year. So we are making progress in several different areas. We're utilizing HIBster and really using that data that generates from that program and using that to identify different trends in our data. We do a lot of professional development in regards to positive behavior support, social and emotional learning, and different strategies for teachers to utilize in the classroom. We have a very active school climate and safety committee in each of the schools to address different concerns that we have. They identify those concerns based on the data, and then we come up with some different ideas to address those concerns. And this year, I think one of our biggest highlights was student involvement. We had a lot of students get involved and assist us in making anti-bullying videos that were shared during morning meetings. We had monthly bulletin board themes in both schools, and we also had some district-wide activities as well. In the future, we're going to continue to work on identifying the difference between student conflict and HIB. It's an ongoing issue that we'll always address. We will continue to train our volunteers, all of our staff, including substitutes and any new hires throughout the year. We will continue to conduct lessons in the classrooms by both myself and the anti-bullying specialist, and the teachers assist with that as well. We will continue to do some school-wide programs in regards to making positive behavior choices and creating a positive school climate. Continue to use the reports in HIBster, and hopefully our school safety climate teams will continue to meet and be active, and we highly encourage any parents or guardians that would like to join that team. So again, you're going to be hearing from me again in the fall when we reflect back on the 1920 school year. And when we put our draft report together, I'll present that in probably October or November. But we are making progress, and we are always striving to do better each year. So thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions from the board for Ms. Truzzolino? Okay, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the report of the superintendent. Dr. McCooley, floor is yours. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I only have a couple things. The school reopening committee has been meeting each Monday. We just met today, and we are making progress with multiple plans for each school to reopen in September, whether that's 100% in school, a hybrid, or out of online. And today we got hit with a little piece of information right before the meeting from the governor, where more information is coming out later this week from the DOE regarding parents having the option to do 100% online learning. So once we have that information, we will put it in our plan and reconvene, and that will be complete by the end of July. But once we're done, I will get it out to the board, and then we'll send it out to parents. And that's all I have.
Okay. Deb, did you have something to add for the superintendent's update? That's board
No,
work session.
for Board of the Whole.
Yep. So next up on the agenda is residents forum agenda items only. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members to the public to express, with each statement made by a participant limited to 3 minutes, as cited in policy number 0167. The public may comment on any item on the agenda at this time, and general public comment will occur later in the meeting. So for the dial in, the number is 646-558-8656. We're going to wait like we normally do, a couple of minutes to allow the live feed to catch up and allow any incoming public comment to get to us. Do we have anything waiting in the queue?
Yeah, no one's waiting to come on.
All right, remember that the live stream feed's about 30 seconds behind, so we're just killing time here. It doesn't look like I see anything coming in here. So remember that there is another public comment period at the end of the agenda. If a member of the public missed this opportunity, the second public comment period is for its open public comment period. So we're going to move on to item 11, the board work session. And Dr. M, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the policies and regulations.
All right, thanks, Nick. I'm not muted right now. Okay, so the first one on there is up for discussion. It's also on the agenda for a first reading, but this is the part where we have discussion. So it is a new bylaw for the board, and it is regarding using electronic devices for meetings, as we have been doing, but even going further, if we decide to actually convene together, any of the board members that don't feel comfortable, they are still welcome to do it from home via internet. And this policy would support that. This is a bylaw. So the thing that we need to discuss is in red, to participate via electronic device, the board member must use the video feature of their device through the entire meeting. So that would be executive and regular session. You can see for confidentiality purposes, it's really difficult when your video isn't on because we don't know who's in the room with you. And especially an executive, you know, it's difficult if we can't see you and see who's around you. So that's one part that we're adding to it. The other one is optional. And my recommendation would be no, but we can discuss this. You can't participate in executive or vote if you're electronic. And I don't feel that that would be fair because, as I said, if we move forward and we are face-to-face, there are some board members that may not feel comfortable doing that. So discussion.
What was that?
It was a seagull, man.
All right, are we?
I think I'm in agreement with.
I'm in agreement.
We're okay with having to use the video.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, what if something happens, like say someone had technical difficulty or something like that? Is there any exceptions, or there's not going to be? I'm just, playing devil's advocate here. It's a big discussion of faculty because we have students all the time that choose not to turn their video on. I feel like I'm talking into the unknown when I'm teaching online.
And you bring up a good point, Dr. Snyder, because a lot of schools are now requiring that you have to have your video on because of all this online learning. And I think we're putting that in some of our policies for the high school and the junior high. So I would say you're required to the best of your effort. Like if there's an issue, you have to notify the board president right away. But I would like us to use it more than we're not. There's some now that people don't want to, but I would suggest that we do. We can add a little caveat in there that if there's issues, you can notify the board president.
And I'm not a Chromebook expert, but I'm assuming all Chromebooks have cameras.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're happy to provide Chromebooks, and we've done this in other districts when a board member needs a device with microphone and video capabilities. The district can provide Chromebooks to board members that have that function.
And even with Zoom, you could do it through your phone. So really, there should be
That's true. Yeah.
You know, it should be okay, but I would say in extreme cases, if you notify the board president, then we can work through that. I'll add that in for the second reading.
Mhm.
And we don't want to add the part about executive not being able to vote, correct?
Correct.
No.
No.
Okay. All right. Any other feedback on that one? Okay, the next one is the emergency family leave policy. That this policy came out from Strauss Esme. It has been reviewed by our board attorney's office, and the changes are on here for your review. What we would need to discuss are only two things. On page 2 of the policy, it says the first 10 days of this leave are eligible. The employee shall be unpaid or paid for the first 10 days. My suggestion is unpaid because we may have a great deal of people using this and we would need to get substitutes.
It's just for 10 days?
The first 10 days, and
days.
then this kicks in and they get up to 80 hours if they're a
Paid.
full-time employee, paid by the
Paid.
district. They don't use their sick time. The unpaid, they can use their sick time for.
Right. So the 80 hours is 10 days, really? About 10 days?
Yeah,
After.
right, after this initial 10-day period.
Well, I think that makes sense.
My
they
question
can
is, I was
sick
going to bring this up.
Yeah.
Is there anything going to be put into place if people travel to hot zones, anything like that? In the event that they try, okay, let me go away on break to, I don't know,
Florida.
California, where there's, thousands of new cases each day. And then, okay, comes back and says, I now have to self-quarantine. Do we have the ability to have any additional policy with regards to that?
So we did speak to the attorney about this and other school districts, and we put the calendar discussion on the board of the whole for this purpose, but we can speak about it now. Other school districts have gone ahead and said, if you travel outside the state to one of these places, you will not be using, you have to use your sick time if you're going to self-quarantine for 14 days. Now, is that legal right now? Not necessarily, but some school districts are taking the position, we're going to put this in place as a policy and then see if we get, pushback from the NJEA on that, which they probably will. But there's no precedent on this right now. So
Right.
we would have to, draft a policy, and that would have to be like a first and second reading for August and September. But I can definitely look into that and find some samples for the board.
I mean, I think just for staff and students, like I think everyone, in order for everyone to feel safe, like if we have November break and then students go to Florida and come back, everyone's at risk now. It's not just.
And this is, with the understanding that we are actually opening, because every day we're getting different guidance from the DOE. But no, I think, Dr. Snyder, that should be separate than this. This is the emergency family leave, but I will find some sample procedures that other school districts are using and run that by the attorney and see if we can actually, in fact, make it a policy, or that's a procedure we have in place.
But it doesn't just have to be a hotspot. I mean,
Yeah.
families can travel the tri-state area and come down with the virus as well.
Right.
So
There's many unknowns to this.
yeah.
Because this is new to everyone, but let me get some information together on that and send that out to the board.
All right.
So the only other thing on this would be who they have to report to, and I would just like that to be the superintendent, so I can kind of keep track of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll put those on there, and this will be a second reading in August.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. Next we have budget and finance, Mr. Brown. Oh, excuse me, I skipped over the tails policy. The tails policy is basically if a staff member wants to be trained to be a handler, and a dog handler, then they can go through the proper procedures, and our policy supports that. They have this in place at Pinelands now for the last year, and it's been very successful. All right, Nick, shared service summary.
All right, thanks, Dr. McCooley. The board president, Ms. Januzzi, had asked me to put together a brief summary of our shared services and the financial impact on the district. I shared that with Ms. Januzzi and also shared it with the board in your board of the whole folder. I'm going to throw it up on the screen here real quick. Where's my share screen option? Oh, can I not share the screen because I'm not a host?
Where are you, Nick? Let's see.
Can you co-host me?
You should be able to share it out.
Under security, you can do it too.
Oh, here we go. Got it. Thank you. All right. So I'm just going to kind of start at the top of this and go through it because I want everybody to just get an idea of the layout. This is, we look here, we start with the employee, and then in this first example, we're talking about the superintendent. And remember that all of these shared services aren't the same. So in this example with Dr. McCooley, the salary is split 50-50, including the FICA cost, which is a fixed percentage of your salary, and the health benefits cost. So the total cost to Little Egg Harbor to have Dr. McCooley as the superintendent is $113,322. A replacement cost, and Dr. M covered superintendent salaries a little bit in executive session. So you would agree that this 170 is a low estimate for a replacement cost for a superintendent. And we assume the same fixed percentage for FICA. Family benefits means a replacement superintendent unshared, the cost to the district would be over $205,000. So sharing Dr. M with Pinelands Regional results in a projected annual savings of over $91,683. And we do the same math going down. I'm going to go through mine because the structure of mine's a little bit different. I'm a shared business administrator. Pinelands pays a set annual fee for my services, not a percentage of the cost. So my total salary, including the Pinelands cost, is here, the FICA cost, my family coverage for health benefits, and then you back out the $102,500 that Pinelands pays, and the total cost to the board for business administrator services is $98,861. And so if I back out just and do the same thing here, the replacement cost, this is lower than my Little Egg portion of the salary, the FICA portion of that, the family benefits replacement. So the replacement cost for the BA is a little over, just under $162,000. So the savings to the district, a little over $63,000 a year. So we can go through and see these same examples for all the shared staff, including Mr. Baronato, Mrs. Lichtenwalner, Mr. Yates, Miss Elwood, Bruce Stranahan, Dr. Fontana, and Katie Munn. And we total that up and you have a total savings versus the cost of having this all on staff of over $351,000 a year just to the Little Egg Harbor School District. This doesn't include the savings that Pinelands saves in this because this is also a value add to them. So I realize that this is the first time we've taken this kind of depth on shared services. So I want to open this up, consider this a living, breathing document. If you have another way you'd like to evaluate either the replacement cost or how we define savings, I'm open to some input on this. There's no set way to evaluate things. We could go back the other way and evaluate what we had in the 17-18 budget at the time that these changes were made, and there's still a positive savings versus when we made the changes. So we wanted to look at them all in the current year versus their cost to replace them as a full-time equivalent, equaling one in Little Egg Harbor. And I think the savings speaks for itself. It's a really, that's a substantial amount of money. That's almost the same amount of money we can raise in taxes every year by going to 2%. So, that 350,000 is a really significant number. So I wanted to just ask members of the board, do you have any questions about this, or is there any input on this you'd like to see that we keep this thing up to date or include any additional information?
I guess I would like to see like we have assistant BAs. Actually, forgive me because I'm not know the right title, but I know like we have supervisor of curriculum and instruction now, which is an additional position which we didn't have, which would take away from the savings. We have a supervisor of special education, which again takes away from these savings. So I would like to really see what the net savings is after we added these additional positions.
I would disagree with that sentiment, Dr. Snyder, that but we'd have the special education supervisor here and we've accounted for the additional cost and salary and the shared services revenue. That one's highlighted on the screen. That one results in a savings of about $9,000 a year. What was the other one you wanted to see?
But we never had a special education supervisor. So while we had two positions at we had a special, what do we have, Director of Special Education Services at Pinelands, and we had one at Little Egg. When you combine those two positions, what was those total salaries for those two positions? Like, we didn't have this title before this year. Like, this
So
is a new
actually though,
position.
but you have to keep in mind, when I came to the district in 2015, each building had a principal and 2 assistant principals, which were supervisors. So now we're down to 1 principal and 1 supervisor in each building. So we just reallocated the admin team. So now those 2 assistant principals or supervisors that we eliminated, now you have the special ed one and the curriculum one, just doing different things.
It's the same situation for Mr. Akampura, the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction. Previously was a director. We just changed his title. Same with my position of Assistant Business Administrator, was formerly the bookkeeper position, just changed the title. So some of these are not new positions altogether, just title changes and not replacing bodies.
And even at the time when, I'll use John as an example, John replaced the incomparable Ann Facemeyer. And John's salary and benefits and FICA costs together were less than salary, benefits, and FICA costs for Ms. Facemeyer at the same time. So we do always have an eye on saving. I understand what you're saying, Dr. Snyder, and I guess we'll follow up, because I want this to be representative as best we can of the changes, but it's also, unless you're looking back from 17, 18 till today, and then doing this replacement cost projection, it'd be difficult to account for all of those things, but I want to make this workable and usable for the board. So,
Do you remember at Pinelands, I did that thing with the old the admin team, and then I did it now? We could do something similar. So in 2015, what each school looked like and the district looked like, and compare that, because I think that would help visually for everybody.
I was just going to suggest that, because I did watch that board meeting, and that was very helpful.
All right, we could definitely put that together.
yeah, the bean counters always go right to spreadsheets. You know what I mean?
I'm more first grade visual.
And one other thing that I would like to see is what things come from grant funding versus, I guess. Budget
Yeah, we
funding.
can show that we actually do, as part of the budget, we create a position control roster, and it has each of the individual each of these individual staff members and where they're budgeted, including whether they're budgeted from local lines, grant lines, et cetera. So that detail is readily available, and we can enhance the spreadsheet with that information.
Nick?
Yes, ma'am.
I think it might be a good idea also to maybe make a chart of our BSI teachers, all teachers that are funded salary-wise via Title I, so that they can see that too.
So that'll actually be on the next board meeting. We had to wait to do our ESSA money because we were waiting for Bass River's funds to come through. But I believe that Erin has on the board agenda, the staff that are being paid with IDEA on this agenda.
Okay, great.
Just to clarify what John, what he's saying there is, because Bass River students are now consolidated with us at Little Lake Harbor, John had to jump through hoops to work with the state to make sure that their title money could transfer over with us and with the students.
Right.
And I think that's something to mention also, that we can put this in the overall chart is enrollment and staff count, because now that we have Bass River students, we have their teachers, it actually makes the administrators have more evaluations to do too. So we got their teachers and students, but not another administrator. So we can put all that in the document.
Good.
Remember, guys, this will be a living, breathing document. We'll add some stuff. If you have some input at the next board meeting, we'll continue to add stuff. We want to make it a comprehensive tool for you guys to be able to evaluate whether or not these services are successful. But even if we subtract out some money for positions, there's a substantial annual savings available here. And I want to segue that, if there are no additional questions on this for now, I'll pause and make sure we don't have any others. I want to segue that into the next part of this, which we have some good news. Back in the end of January, the board passed a resolution that we were going to seek funds through the local LEAP grant, I guess. I can't remember what the acronym was for, but the board approved and passed a resolution approving the submission of a LEAP grant. We asked for $90,000 from the Department of Community Affairs to study consolidation of the 5 regional school districts. And we were happy to inform you that we were awarded the full grant that we applied for. We actually just got the contracts from the grant this afternoon. So you will see on Pineland's August agenda, there'll be a resolution to accept it. But I want to congratulate the board and Dr. McCooley, who I believe we are one of the first or among the first group in the state to receive these funds. And now we have a lot of work to do in studying the value of consolidation. But I think starting with the point, knowing that we have tremendous savings through our administrative team allows us to focus down on where we can achieve additional savings and understand, besides savings, how do our students benefit from consolidation? Because ultimately that's what's driving this thing is, are we going to improve the quality of the education that the students in this region get? And that is always the most important thing. We can throw in some savings on top. I think that makes the ratepayers in our communities happy as well. Dr. M, did you want to?
Can I just jump in for a second? I just want to explain and stress that the purpose of this grant is to do the study. It doesn't mean that any particular school advocates for consolidation. All is it's giving us the money to do the study, which will give us data. And then based on that data, the boards of education will have to make decisions, whether to keep things as is or move forward with consolidation. But this is only money to do the study.
That's a great point, Dr. McCooley. Thank you. There's nothing official. It's just the beginning of the process, basically. But the good news is the state of New Jersey threw 90,000 our way, and we're going to start that engagement with them in August. Are there any questions about that grant or where we're at with that for right now?
So what happens after that?
Well, the next thing we have to do is execute an agreement with the department that awards these funds. There's a contract and a resolution that's required to do so. Remember that Pinelands was the lead agency on this, so that district will be asked to review and approve the resolution and the contract. So after that, we begin the engagement process with trying to identify the legal experts that'll help study the financial impact, the impact on curriculum, and also the impact on debt. So we had identified in the application a number of firms that we could work with as part of this process. And part of our commitment with the other districts is that we would make sure that we were all engaged in selecting the firms that we're going to choose to work with us. So we're required to evaluate several components of this, and there will be engagement with several different law firms to do that. We'll have labor law, finance law, and a review of the curriculum, the impact on the racial disparity. So they're all required parts of that study. And now we're going to begin the engagement process to select firms to do that work.
What's the timeline, Nick? Like if this goes through, if everything is fine and it goes through and we're consolidating, what's the timeline?
So they did this in Bass River, Deb, and the study alone took over a year. So this is much more comprehensive. So it's going to take quite some time just to do the study. And now with this pandemic, things aren't moving very quickly.
I think when we originally set out, we said we were looking at the 22-23 school year, and I don't think that's different now. But I will say that I've never done one of these consolidation studies before, and we're going to learn a lot in this process. And I think we'll get a better idea on the timeline once we enter into engagement with these different firms that are going to help do this study.
Thanks.
Are there any questions from the other members of the board about the LEAP grant?
No, I'm good.
Okay. The last thing in here, there was a note, I believe this is a question from Ms. Januzzi on budget and hiring. So I mentioned previously that when we build the budget, we develop something called a position control roster, and that outlines the positions that we intend to have in the subsequent budget year and the accounts that those positions will be paid from, whether they're grant funded or paid from the general fund. Now that's a guide. It's not saying that they're the only positions we can hire for the year. And what happens sometimes is a good example is we may have an IEP driven need for new one-on-one aid. So that would be an unbudgeted position for an upcoming year. So it's not a set in stone, the only folks that can hire, but the total money that we have available is set in stone. So any positions come in that are outside of the original budget, we have to make cuts in other areas to support those positions. I just wanted to quickly go over that in case there was any confusion about it. Were there any questions from the board on that? All right, as a quick note for everybody, the minimum wage in the state of New Jersey is going to be going up January 1st, 2021 from $11 to $12 an hour. This is a state law. Most likely it'll impact our community school program now, because that's typically where our counselors in training and where we have folks making minimum wage on through our organization. So the next one, Deb, and I'm going to pass this over to you.
I'm going to do meetings first, Nick. I'm going to do meetings and calendar.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, go ahead.
This question then. Did you have that budgeted the increase for minimum wage?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Yep.
So meetings, we want to try to schedule our retreat or our training in August, and Deb's going to talk a little bit about that. But we would also like to have an in-person board meeting in August. So we can move forward with that if the board's okay with it. We can just have the board there, and if you're not comfortable being present, you can Zoom in and still do the public remotely, or we can set certain amount of seats in the auditorium and socially distance them and see if anyone wants to come in, either or. But we would like to try to have an in-person board meeting in August. Is anyone not okay with that?
Mrs. Palin, answering, I don't feel it's worth the risk for me.
Okay, Mrs. Palin, and we can absolutely we'll Zoom you in just like we're doing right now.
Okay.
Okay?
That'll be fine, because I'm in a very difficult position.
Absolutely, yes. And your health is always most important, and that's with everyone. So we're going to open it up to have it in person. And if someone doesn't feel comfortable, then you're welcome to Zoom into the meeting. All right, we'll send some more information on that when it gets closer to the meeting. Before I turn it over to Deb, the 2021 school calendar I put on here, and I believe we addressed this. Dr. Snyder had brought up, that week in November where we have off, that families tend to travel. We don't know what the world's going to look like at that point, but we're going to try to put something in place that if they do in fact travel, that they're going to be held accountable if they, are going to bring anything back with them that could harm themselves or anyone in our districts.
Is there any word on the teachers convention going virtual?
Yes, it is.
It is?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's the full week?
Yes. In our school calendar, we have the full week off. Their convention is only 2 days.
Thursday and Friday?
Yeah, we started giving that whole week off. We developed the calendar in conjunction with the teachers, and then it goes up for board approval. And one of the things that we've seen is that although we typically only had a couple of days off that week, neighboring school districts have the entire week. And then their kids go to those schools, and those teachers call out all week, call out sick, and it's very difficult for us to keep staff that week. So we just wound up giving the week off and, doing the 180 days a different way. But this is a very unique time. So as we get closer, if we feel like we need to adjust the calendar and just push through that week because we're remote learning or whatever the case is, we can always revisit that with the teachers.
Right, okay. Okay. I'm up.
All right, yes, Deb.
Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, I received a letter from New Jersey School Boards Association. It was in reference to how our membership dues are allocated. I think I took particular interest in the trainings that we are able to take, especially the governance trainings is professional development. The professional development is sent to us via emails, if you notice, very frequently from New Jersey School Boards, as well as if you go onto their website, you can view all past trainings. Particular interest to me is the CUSAC training. CUSAC is the Department of Education's ability to monitor all the school districts in New Jersey. And they do that by county. And it's usually done every 3 years, although in talking with John, that might change. So our CUSAC was last year. And really what it is a monitoring system in different areas. So we're monitored in different areas, and every stakeholder in our school district is responsible for a part of that. So I don't really want to go into it, but what I wanted to mention to the board was it's extremely important that you go on the New Jersey School Board's website, that you view this 2 trainings on CUSAC, that you view the training, and we need to use that as a board as a rubric for us. Because basically what it's telling us is what we are responsible for. Now, I don't think I mentioned what CUSAC stands for. It's the Quality Single Accountability Continuum. It's a monitoring system. What I will do is send you the website. You can click on the website. You can also view the manual, which is extremely lengthy. It's like 135 pages, but it's very interesting. I did read it. It took me a very long time to read it and to get into it, but it is extremely valuable for us. What I did want to mention is that August 5th, we're hoping that there's going to be a training. We would like to confirm that date. So if everybody is available August 5th, please let me know as soon as possible. And Melissa, will it be like around 6 o'clock or?
Really, would it works for everyone? If you want to do it earlier because, you know, people are home, I don't really mind, but I have to verify with trainers too. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Our board attorney will be conducting the training. There will be various topics during that training. One of them will be CUSAC. And in consultation with John, I'm hoping that John and I can put together some type of presentation after to answer any questions that the board might have. I think that's it.
Okay.
Any questions? Do we have, I'm sorry.
No, that's right. I was going to ask the same thing.
Yeah. Any questions? I'll get that email out to you as soon as I can. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Let's see. I just want to remind the board too, we have an opening for the August bill list review. Any volunteers that want to come in and review the bill list next month, that would be, typically it's done the day of the meeting. You could do this remotely if you'd like. We have an open slot for August. No, don't, you can just email me later if you're interested. But we do have that open spot. So feel free to hit me up if you'd like to jump in there in that slot. All right, we're going to move on to number 12, finance. And I'm going to recommend a motion to approve finance items A through Y. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Mr. Key.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Palin?
Yes.
Ms. Roth?
Yes.
Dr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mr. Balone?
Yes.
And Ms. Januzzi?
Yes.
That motion carries. Item 13, facilities. Recommend a motion to approve facilities item A. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, was that you, Ms. Roth?
It was.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any questions from the board? All right, Mr. Key,
Yes.
Ms. Palin,
Yes.
Ms. Roth,
Yes.
Dr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Balone,
Yes.
Ms. Januzzi.
Yes.
That motion carries. Number 14, technology. Recommend a motion to approve technology items A through E. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Roll call, Mr. Keeb,
Yes.
Ms. Palin,
Yes.
Ms. Roth,
Yes.
Dr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Balone,
Yes.
Ms. Januzzi.
Yes.
Motion carries. Number 15, new business. I believe there's no new business at this time, so we're going to move on to item 16, informational items. The following items are being presented for informational purposes. The community school financials for the month of June 2020 and correspondence from Mr. Seth Cole, facilities manager. Item number 17, personnel. Recommend a motion to approve personnel items A through J. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Roll call, Mr. Keeb,
Yes.
Ms. Palin,
Yes.
Ms. Roth,
Yes.
Dr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Ms. Januzzi,
Yes.
and Mr. Balone.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Almost missed you, John. That motion carries. All right, item 18 is HIB. Upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve item number 18. However, there are no HIB items at this time. So we'll move to item 19, policies and procedures. Recommend motion to approve policies and procedures items A through J. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Roll call vote. We'll switch it up. Ms. Palin,
Yes.
Dr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Keeb,
Yes.
Mrs. Roth,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Balone,
Yep.
Ms. Januzzi.
Yes.
That motion carries. Item 20, informational items. The following items are being presented for informational purposes. Enrollment and attendant reports. Item 21 is public comment. The floor is now open to members of the public. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance allowing members of the public to express with each statement made by a participant limited to 3 minutes as cited in policy 0167. There's a sign-in sheet located on the podium, which you cannot sign into right now. Please state your name and your address if there is public comment at this time. And I'm gonna look over to the tech team from direction. Do we have any public comment at this time?
Currently no comments, no one waiting in the queue.
Thank you. It looks like there's no public comments at this time, but like we've done in the past, we're gonna wait 30 seconds so that members of the public who are watching this live stream have an opportunity to call in. And I'm just going to confirm one more time with tech. Do we have anybody on the line ready to go?
There's one in the queue.
Okay, so seeing no public comment at this time, we will move to item 22, board forum. Members of the board are encouraged to speak or share their thoughts. The floor is open.
Anybody? I just want to say thank you to the staff and the administration for their continuous support in the district. You guys are just amazing. You never really cease to amaze me. And I also would like to thank the committee that Melissa put together and the administration for our plan for reopening. I know it's been very difficult. Hopefully we'll have it all ironed out soon. Anybody else like to say anything?
Yeah, I do. Just hope everybody's having a good summer and they stay safe. That's all.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No?
Okay.
Nobody else?
Okay. So there is no need for item 23, a second executive session. So we will move to item 24, adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Okay.
All right. Be it hereby resolved by the Little Egg Harbor Board of Education to adjourn this meeting at 6:51 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All members opposed to adjourning the meeting? All right.